Hello, and welcome back to Practically Political. I'm Dave Spencer, and as always, I'm joined with my two partners in crime, Ashley Davis, and Kurt Bardella. It's great to have you partners here, as always. So, boy, there's nothing to talk about as usual, but I thought we'd start off with the tariffs because a lot of the market seems to be hoping that by the incremental increases we've seen in most winning days over the last 2 or 3 weeks, seems to be betting that Trump's going to call it off. A lot of more conservative newspapers like the Wall Street Journal, there's an article today. Trump still has a chance to remake, not destroy international trade. So I wanted to check in with you folks and see what you think is going to happen and what should the president do, and is there any chance that he's actually going to do the right or smart thing? Why don't we start with you, Ashley?
Well, first of all, welcome. I'm so happy to be on another episode, Dave and Kurt, with you. But I think, listen, with the recent announcement, with the UK trade agreement, I thought that was very interesting. Obviously, I was expecting Japan. India's preoccupied right now. Maybe Canada, Mexico, I don't know, but UK I really wasn't expecting, but if you think about it, it makes the most sense because well, it's a smaller country, it's an easier to do the deal, but also from what I understand and from what I've seen what's happening in the UK, the citizens are so unhappy with various home issues that are happening there, healthcare, et cetera, debt for the country, that I think it was a good agreement for both of them to do. They both leaders, the prime minister and our president, needed a win. And I think that, listen, the devil's in the details. All the details are not out yet, but I thought in regards to tariffs in general, this needs to happen every week. So do you do Australia next? Do you do Japan after that? Do you do, Vietnam or whatever, or Thailand? If that starts happening, I think if you start seeing more and more of these, or one a week, so to speak, I think that then the markets start calming even more. But I mean, Kurt, what do you think? I mean, I know Democrats are a little upset because, they want the economy to still be bad.
Yeah, well, okay. First of all, nobody's rooting for a bad economy. Um, but we are rooting for Donald Trump to fail. So yeah, kind of goes.
Are you mad the Pope's not Republican, American?
The Pope is apparently not a big JD Vance fan. You look at some of his tweets; they have been very opposed to Donald Trump and some of the things he has done, which I find interesting.
Yeah.
I think you're right that if the White House can start knocking off trade deal after trade deal and building up some momentum, that can help stabilize the markets and the economy. Remember, they started this thing promising 90 deals in 90 days. Well, we've got one. They are far short of once again the expectation that they set. They continually do this to themselves. They set unreasonable, impossible expectations, and then they fail to meet them. And that's why right now we're seeing in virtually every single poll conducted that the president's approval rating, whether it's with independents, whether it's with Latinos, whether it's with working class families, whether it's with the coalition of people that he won the election with, he has dropped between 8 and 12 points over the last 30 days with them. And it's singularly, in my opinion, because of the economy. And if he's not careful, the sentiment will be baked in that we are in a bad economy. Interest rates have not gone down. The cost of anything has not gone down. The American people do not believe we are in a good economy right now, which is somewhat of a continuation over how they felt about the Biden economy. But now it's the Trump economy. And let me tell you, the answer he gave the other day, when the good stuff of the economy is because of me and the bad stuff is because of Joe Biden, like, no one's going to buy that.
No, and also the thing is, Americans, one of the things that fascinates me is that we tend to latch on to easy, recognizable data. And I think the one that was most costly was, oh, gas is $1.98 a gallon. Because that's something, and for the record, the average price, the last time I checked, was, according to AAA, was $3.15 nationally. The lowest price was $2.60 in Mississippi. So
Yeah,
anyone's
I
going to
saw
go
that
out
too.
just as they're driving down the road, look at the gas station. There's nothing more transparent than gas prices, right? Everybody knows
Uh-huh.
what it is every day, where they are. So people are going to see that's BS. And to me, again, getting back to what you said, Kurt, about the expectations, it seems to me if you want to succeed in all the other stuff you're doing, you have to have a good economy. Now, whether that's the dark side of the coin, whether you're planning an authoritarian takeover a la Viktor Orban in Hungary, or if you just want it cover for some of the more controversial stuff that you're doing, you have to have a good economy. Because as you say, that's the number one criterion that people judge a presidency for. So I think from a strategic point of view, I just don't get it. And as far as the tariffs go, I think what was it, 90 days? So what does that give us till July 9th? And what's today?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It's already a third of the
We
way
may
there.
have 9 by July.
Exactly. And we have one trade deal with our most steadfast ally, who happens to be our 8th largest trading partner. Nothing is going on with China. China very smartly knows they can wait
Oh, that's
us.
not true. Besant's meeting with China. I think there is a initial conversation happening finally, but it hasn't nothing real. You're right.
I'll believe it when I see it. I think China
Okay,
very
fair.
crudely is waiting us out. They know they don't have the consequences of elections. They're a lot better at dealing with pain than we are. And so I think, and they also know Trump's track record of flip-flopping. So I think time, they believe, is their ally. But what say you, Kurt?
Well, the one thing I was actually just gonna ask Ashley this because we've seen the vocabulary about the economy kind of shift from Trump to, well, there's going to be some inflation. Some things are going to be more expensive. Some things like your Barbie dolls, or you can have 2 or 3 instead of 30, which I don't know anyone who buys 30 Barbie dolls, but be that as it may, the idea that, well, there's going to be some pain and that it's okay. I'm not sure that's the best way to go message wise. Because again, that's such a drastic departure from the rhetoric that we heard from Donald Trump all throughout the campaign, which was everything's going to be great on day one, everything's going to be wonderful, and now he's saying, well, there's going to be a little bit of pain. I don't think that's what the American people signed up for, Ashley.
Well, no, and I don't think that no one needs 30 baby dolls. I mean, that's just not. I'm sure that there's a lot of people in the press room that were cringing when he said that and then doubled down and said it again. But listen, the problem is even when the economy was getting better for Biden, he couldn't, it was still hung around his neck in regards to he was owning it because no one believed that their day-to-day lives were getting better. So if all you Bidenomics. So if all you hear every day is we're either going into recession, the interest rate, I mean, exactly what you said, Kurt, it's just going to get into in your mind and you're going to start believing it, whether it's true or not true. It's just how people are going to feel. But that being said, the American people are very smart and they know if they go to the grocery store and eggs are still expensive and, their rent's still high and everything else, their insurance is high, that's going to be a problem. But, I want to say this, an ambassador was on a show with me recently, and he's been advising other countries on how to deal with Trump. And I think he's actually a Biden appointee. And he said that all of his foreign leader counterparts are saying, we don't take Trump seriously, but we take his words very seriously. And the ambassador said, no, 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 no. You need to do the other way. You need to take him very seriously, like he's not afraid to do stuff, but don't take his word seriously. And
Yeah.
so, I sit here and I'll stop talking, but I sit here and think, I'm not sure why any of us are shocked this is happening again, because it's the same thing that happened 4 years ago. I mean, he played this playbook once, not just
And he
with
told
tariffs,
us,
but just
he told us exactly what he was going to do.
totally.
Like the first term, the first campaign, he said whether it was retribution, whether it was the border, whether it was tariffs, all this stuff, he said he was going to do it. So what I find most incredulous is that people are surprised that he's doing what he said he was going to do. And just to go back to the other side, Americans like things. We like a lot of stuff, and we like, frankly, a lot of cheap stuff. And that's what China has done so well, and Walmart has done so well, because there's a lot of stuff. So for a president, by the way, who's personally raking it in more than ever. We can talk more about that, but to pontificate to Americans that they need to cut back, I think
Let
doesn't.
them eat cake.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Well, the other thing I wanted to talk about, well, there's many things we could talk about, was some stuff on the foreign affairs side, because I think that when you talk about China, this relates to trade. I just want to get your thoughts on, how we are dealing with China, how we should be dealing with China. We touched on it a little bit, but I guess the thing that really sticks in my craw is that so much of this could have been avoided if the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which our viewers may remember Obama got through in 2015, which was not really a trade bill. It took 40% of the world's economy and opened it up. And obviously it helps us a lot more because our economy was more open than a lot of these Asian countries. But it was mostly Asian countries, and it isolated China. And of course he got rid of it as part of the populist anti-trade thing. So as well as, if you're going to do it properly, we would ramp up the tariffs, we would give advance notice, we would get a lot of trading partners together, but none of that's being done. It's all ad hoc, it's all disorganized. And so I think China is winning. And don't believe me, just go and look at all the countries like Japan and South Korea that are talking trade deals with China, because they may not approve of the human rights record, but at least they're a reliable trade partner, which cannot be said about us right now. What are your thoughts? We'll start with Ashley.
Well, I don't think any of those countries can ignore the United States no matter what. So even if they do have a trade deal with China, I agree that's unfortunate. But Japan can't ignore the US, right? I mean, I don't know the percentage of goods they sell to us or vice versa, but it has to be a tremendous amount to their bottom economy. Um, but listen, I think the president thought he was going to come in and solve Ukraine and the Russia situation. He was going to be able to isolate China by solving that problem and kind of putting his arm around Russia for the one of the sole purposes of, one, ending the war and stop killing people, but also to kind of bring Russia away from China. I mean, that's the end game, from what I understand, is for him to weaken China. And I think that anybody, I hear it all the time, Democrat, Republican, no matter who it is, especially elected officials, they understand the threat that China has, whether it's our AI, our patents, just the ability to integrate into our everyday lives, and then we can't use their court system, but they can use our court system. I mean, there's just a lot of things that are unfair. But I think at the end of the day, I the reason he's what we were talking about earlier before we came on is about Iran. Like, why is he doing this deal with Iran? He's trying to at least get Iran in a position or give them something so Iran doesn't go to China. I mean, I think this all goes back to that there's not two parts of the world: China, Russia, Iran, all that group, and then America and America and America, because no one else is going to defend anybody.
Yeah, I mean, I think the problem is when you look at Trump's economic policies, if you will, his approach has been to isolate the United States, sever our ties and our relationships, and strain our friendships with our allies, which is really driving people into China's arms. China's going to be the biggest beneficiary of the Trump tariff because
Absolutely.
the rest of the world's going to go, okay, if the U.S. is closed for business, then we'll have to go to China. There's no one else there. Your adversaries always get stronger on the things that you leave behind. And the United States withdrawing from the global stage and becoming more of an isolationist, nationalist country gives other countries no other place to go but to the other dominant economic power in the globe, and that is China. The things that we're not going to buy from China anymore, well, they'll turn around and say, okay, everyone else, if you want to buy from us, we'll make it cheaper for you. We'll make it even cheaper for you than the United States. It is the best gift to China as a global dominant power, to have Trump's tariff policies come in the way that they have, because they really have. Even the people who are making deals, they might be making some deals here, but they're not happy about it. There's a lot of resentment towards the United States and this administration for it. And if someone comes around offering a better deal, they're going to take it.
And that's why I think it behooves China to stall in terms of doing a deal with us. I think, will something eventually get done? Yes. So we were not going to have 145% tariffs indefinitely. Even the president has admitted that. But the longer this takes, the more time it gives China to cozy up to other countries that are alienated by us. And just look at history. It was a little more than a little less than 100 years ago that we tried this really what the three elements of Trumpism, which are nativism, bashing immigrants, protectionism, tariffs, and isolationism, alienating your allies and turning inward. And it gave us the Great Depression and World War II. So I don't think our track record on this is particularly good, especially since the best thing we have going for us is our alliances. That's what China and Russia do not have.
Right.
So shifting to Iran, because you had mentioned that, to me, this is really a fascinating thing because I had major problems with the Obama deal, and we can get into that later at some point. But I think that the theory was that Iran would then open up, that they would stop funding terrorism, that they would want to engage more with the world economy. So we didn't give them money. We just gave them back their money, assets that have been frozen in some cases for over 40 years. It didn't work out that way. But the bottom line was they were complying as opposed to North Korea, where we were cozying up to them and they've never complied with anything. And we'd already given them their money back. So we'd lost all leverage. So Trump canceled the deal, I think mainly because it was Obama's deal. Now he seems to be itching to give them a deal that was better than the deal they had from Obama. So, and they're obviously stalling because I think they're trying to buy time because they want more leeway to develop a nuclear weapon. And it's harder for Israel to strike if they're planning on it while the negotiations are going on. So, what do you folks think of that thesis?
So I hear that the go ahead has been given for Israel to attack Iran from the
Yes,
US perspective. And I think, from foreign policy experts, does that happen most likely by the end of the year? They're decimated. They don't have anything left to fight with. Obviously the nuclear weapon they're developing, but they don't have planes or, anything. Part of their military is gone. So, or there never really was much, but what they had is gone. So I think that I go back to what I said earlier. I think America is going to let Israel fight that battle in regards to the fighting part of Iran. And I think the US is going to try to cut some sort of deal with them. And maybe it's with the threat of, listen, Israel's going to do this to you. If not, if you don't cut some deal with us as well. I understand he is giving away the kitchen sink, so to speak. But I do think it goes back to China. It's like, keep your enemies close. I don't know. Because I don't think Obama's deal was good either. I mean, it was like the biggest thing to Republicans to rally on.
Mhm.
And now we're doing it. So I do agree with you. I just think listen, this is my point, and Kurt's heard me say this before. In the White House, everyone that was talking about what we were doing during Homeland stuff was not true. Like all of the outside people, no one really knew what the ins and outs were, what the terrorist threat levels were, all this stuff. So they know a lot more than we do right now. Obama knew a lot more than we did. He may have been trying to solve another problem by cutting that deal. So I do have to give these people that are in charge of our country that have the information a little bit of credit, whether they're Republicans or Democrats.
Yeah, I think there isn't a lot. I don't have a lot of confidence right now, in part because I just watched them ship off their national security advisor
Yeah.
to go be the UN guy, which is just, it's like failing forward. It's not really a promotion, even though they couched that way. They've rolled the NSA job into the Secretary of State's job, which I'm not entirely sure how that's even possible, functionally speaking. And it just goes to tell you, it's like,
It's only
you guys don't.
It's only temporary.
Sure. Yeah, of course. And it's like, you guys didn't even have your own house in order when it comes to national security, the national security apparatus, the State Department, the UN. How in the world am I supposed to trust that you have your eye on the ball when it comes to negotiating with other nations right now? Because it just seems like just a colossal shit show. And at any given day, there are 4 or 5 different people assuming the same role, speaking and negotiating on behalf of the president. And then he just kind of comes in like a bull in a bull in his china shop and cuts whatever deal he thinks to be about. Trump strikes me as the person who cares much more he has the word deal, no matter what the terms actually are, no matter whether it's good or bad or better or worse than what used to exist, as long as he can say he made a deal, like he's fine with it. But the devil's in the details, and some of these details I don't think are going to go down too well.
So
Well,
can I make a bet to you two? Can we bet?
Yes.
I want to make a prediction. I bet
um,
you Waltz doesn't even get to confirmation hearings.
why do you say that?
I think that he takes himself out or steps back because I don't think he can get confirmed. And,
That was Signalgate.
not even say, I just think it's going to be a bunch of stuff. And so I think that was a short-term solution that day to kind of help him save face a little bit. But like, who cares about the UN ambassador really, right? I mean, it's not like it's a huge
Nikki
position.
Haley did.
Yeah,
Well, I
and-
know she did, but it was a big deal when she was there. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay.
I'm kidding.
I'm using Ashley's own history against her there just for fun.
I'm just very happy that it's not Elise Stefanik, because you folks have heard me say no one was more egregious in her total of abandonment of any principle or value. So, little Schadenfreude, she planned to leave Congress. She let her staff go, giving up her seniority.
Waltz left Congress too.
Never mind, because they were worried about a seat that she'd won by 22 points, which shows you how Trump's standing. But yeah, as
Oh,
far
well, I
as
mean, let me tell you, there's no coattails for this administration. J.D. Vance's brother ran for mayor of something and got like 12%, despite the sitting vice president of the United States campaigning for him, and he didn't get any votes.
well,
When was that? I missed that.
Yeah, that's this past week.
Uh,
Oh, that is so funny. But let me just respond to what Ashley said. I would like to believe you about Walz, but that assumes that the Republicans in the Senate are actually going to show any spine. And after the
Tom
cast of
Tillis just did it. Tom Tillis just did it and sunk the,
And now he's public enemy number one. He will
No,
lose a
but I'm
primary
just saying,
someday.
I understand, Dave. Everyone didn't do that.
believe me, I'd like to believe you, but it's hard given how much of
I
invert-
think all gloves are off after the first round of major
Yeah.
cabinet secretaries.
Well,
I
what we
mean,
need to do as far as the negotiate, we just need to get the world's greatest negotiator extraordinaire, Mr. Whiteacre, who's done such a good job getting the Gaza hostages out and such a good job negotiating with Putin. So, we just need to get him in, that real estate maven who's teaching James Baker how to negotiate. Unbelievable.
The art of the deal.
The art of the deal. My gosh. All right, folks. Well, I'm afraid.
wait, I want to hear Kurt's DNC thing.
Oh yeah, Kurt.
Oh, yeah. Okay, real quick.
about
One of the things that I keep in my eye, there's a big
Yeah.
fight brewing internally within the Democratic National Committee between their vice chair, David Hogg, who's all of 25 years old, who has announced that his political action committee group is going to spend $20 million in Democratic Party primaries. Now, the issue is an elected officer of the DNC is not supposed to be meddling in primaries in any way, shape, or form. And so it's coming down to the showdown of, will the DNC now move to strip him of his vice chair title and kick him out? Hogg is refusing to resign. He's refusing to back down, and is really creating this major, cataclysm within the Democratic Party, to the point where our dear friend and fellow commentator on TV, formerly Aaron Perini, now Aaron McGuire, told me this great story that during White House Correspondents' Week, she ran into David at one of the after parties. I think it was at the Swedish embassy or Swiss embassy. She comes up to him and goes, "Keep it up, David. I love what you're doing. Keep fighting that fight." David has no idea that Aaron is a Republican strategist and consultant, and that is why she is cheering him on. But it just goes to show, it's like, man, for all Republican Party's failures, and issues that I have with character and honesty, they know how to use their organizations to advance their agenda. Meanwhile, Democrats, while facing what they call the greatest existential crisis of democracy, blah blah blah, are right now in the middle of their entire organization fighting their 25-year-old vice chair. Like, that says a lot.
But you know what, Kurt? I think that's a lot of inside baseball. But I agree with you. If you can't get that together, how can you get the rest of it together?
Yeah. Well,
It's
David's
good
doing
inside
Bill Maher
baseball.
here to talk about this, so it's inside baseball
Oh,
now. But
really?
he's talking to Bill Maher about it coming up, and it's like, okay,
Oh,
it's
okay.
gonna get a little bit bigger now.
Hey, Dave, why don't you ask Kurt what he's doing tonight?
Well, I will, but let me just respond because I think this is very interesting and you can make arguments. Well, it's good for the Democratic Party because it's good to have these infights now when it's so far in front of the election. And that's why this whole thing with people like Gavin Newsom are saying that the people being shipped off without due process is the distraction of the day. Anyone who can tell you what's going to happen, a year and a half from now in the midterms is full of what. So I think it's good to have these things early, get the bad news out of the way early. That was one of Reagan's great rules. And so, um, but having said that, it's typical of the problems that the Democratic Party have. And this was true 20 years ago, during the Karl Rove era, where the with the Republicans, they have basic things they can get behind, tax cuts and lower spending and socially conservative causes, where with the Democrats, so often, yes, they stand for principle, but it's like herding cats because you have so many different
Yeah.
factions and they're all warring against each other. And as for all the Democrats that take glee in Trump's poll numbers, I would ruefully remind them that their poll numbers are about 10 points lower than Trump's lowest number. But anyway,
That's fair. That's fair.
now on to far more interesting things. Kurt, what do you have planned?
As soon as we hang up here, if you will, I'm gonna go get changed and head up the road to the Academy of Country Music Awards. It's the 60th anniversary of the ACMs here and they're doing it up here in Dallas. And I'm gonna tell you the one thing. This is the 90s 2000s kid in me here. I'm really excited to see this performance with Rascal Flatts and the Backstreet Boys coming together tonight.
Ooh, are they
I
gonna
love
do a
Backstreet
little
Boys.
dance
So
together?
what is the appropriate dress for this event? What are you going to change into?
The great thing about country music is, and particularly Texas, like almost anything goes. So I'm wearing some dark jeans, a buttoned-up dress shirt, and a little vest, a little denim vest that I got to
Oh,
country
the best.
myself
Are
up a
you
little bit.
working the red carpet, Kurt?
Ashley, I walk red carpets. I don't work them. Come on.
Oh, boom, there we go. Well, have fun. Take some great pictures. And as I said, I like the Backstreet Boys, so enjoy them. But well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. And it's so great to have you all with us. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Practically Political. For Ashley Davis, for Kurt Bardella, I'm Dave Spencer saying thank you, and we'll see you next time.